Churchill, Manitoba, on the shores of Hudson Bay in northern Canada. A world-famous tourist destination to view polar bears in the wild, hang out with hundreds of beluga whales, go dog sledding, witness the northern lights and so much more. I'm Roy Mexted. Join me as we meet the locals and hear their stories. We'll go behind the scenes to discover firsthand how the people of Churchill bring to you a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Welcome to Beyond the White Bear.
I'm gonna live my life in a northern town. Gonna live my life, 'cause I can take my time in a northern town. I can take my time in a northern town. We're smiling like a sundog now. In a northern town, we're smiling like a sundog now. Right here.
How was your summer? It was terrific up here. The lush wetlands soaked up all of its nutrients from the spring's melt. The flowers and the bugs were blooming. In this episode, we give a last hurrah to our beluga whales with guiding extraordinaire Brendan McEwen. Then we take a deep dive into the most famous season of them all, polar bear season. So hold on for the ride. Your adventure starts now. Brendan's lived his whole life in Churchill and he's just launched his own tour operation on the Churchill River. With custom Churchill tours, you'll get a customised sightseeing trip full of local stories and charm. Trapper shoots at
Out here, sometimes they're feeding on fish that are on the bottom, and so they take a big dive. You see them when they go down. Other times they're friendly and curious and come by and visit you. Yeah, born and raised in Churchill, Manitoba here. Been out on the water since I was a young kid with my father. So we've done a lot of traveling back and forth over the years, and spend majority of my spare time in the summer out on the water. There's 3,500 whales, they say, that is the estimate to come visit the Churchill estuary here. But there are regulations, so we do have to keep our distance. And what we do is we, go in the vicinity and you let the whales come to you, just like this pond back here. We had a family out the other day. We ended up finding a polar bear on the shore. We had a great pot of whales, and it was just kind of a magical morning. Made their trip, and that's why I like doing it. Meeting people, seeing their reactions, sharing Churchill with them, and we got a pod right up here.
The city lights can wait for me tomorrow, 'cause the rhythm of the seasons keeps me true. I'm glad I'm living up here in the Muscat.
as the train rolls back to Winnipeg. Be sure to book with custom Churchill tours for your beluga whale trip next summer. Thanks, Brendan, that was awesome. We say goodbye to the summer as the last grain ship leaves the port before the freeze up. The seasonal changes here are drastic, to put it mildly. From summer to fall and edging toward a frigid winter. The snow blanket gently covers the land. It's peaceful and beautiful. Come October, it's that time to keep an eye out for, I think you know what. Here at Goose Creek, Maple and I noticed one of the bird feeders had been ripped down. Closer inspection revealed rather large footprints wandering around the cabin, peeking into every window. Oh yeah, the polar bears are here. Soon, I'll be out and about looking for bears, so stick around. First, let's hear from Dave and Mary at Wapusk Adventures. They also had a surprise encounter with a wandering giant while taking guests on a dog sled ride.
So we were at the second run, and I was talking to my guest. We're just at the end of the yard, and I see my leader going into the bush. I'm like, "Homebye, Casper, homebye!" And I see that big head heading towards me, and there was a big, huge bear coming next to the team. So I jump out of my sled and I start pushing my sled, and I said to my dog, "Homebye, homebye, let's go!" And they kept going. And Dave was behind me. And
I went, well, that's weird. Why are they going to the bush? So I jumped on my brake And then I seen that bear come out of the bush and stand right beside Mary's sled, like, and it's just as tall as Mary. It's a big boy. And I'm going, holy crap, like, Mary could touch that bear right now. And she jumped off her sleigh and called her dogs by, and down the trail they went. The bear's looking at us, and I have 2 tourists in my sleigh. So I just, I always carry my, my cracker pistol with me, you know, and it's really funny because the kids at the kennel always tease me about putting my pistol on. They say, oh, you want to look cool. And I go, oh, well, you know, it has a purpose, you know. I was yelling, bear, bear, because that's what we do at the yard. If someone sees a bear, you yell bear. You know, we don't name a dog Bear, so, you know, we're not calling the dog. That's one of our rules. So, anyway, I get my pistol out, and I grab I grab one of my cracker shells, and I put it in the end, and I point it at the bear, and I shoot at the bear, and it kind of lamely goes, and lands right by the bear and doesn't do anything. And I go, oh, great. So he's like, he's swaying his head back and forth a little bit, you know, he's chomping his teeth a little bit, so I know he's getting agitated. So I grabbed another cracker shell and I put it in, and I give him another one, and it hit his side, and it dropped to his feet, and boom, underneath him, and then he just slowly backed up off the trail. He didn't deter him at all. He's probably been around a long time, so he knows what, you know, what cracker shells are. When I got back to the yard, the tourists were all safe. They were all in the cabin, just like our protocol worked absolutely perfectly. And I just went by a little ways, and he was still sitting there on that little lake that's there. He wasn't going anywhere. So I cracker shelled him a couple more times just to get him to move. And then he went sauntering off into the bush. So then I went down the trail to go get Mary.
It's crazy. It's one of the biggest animals on the planet, and they're right next to you, and they're just so crazy. My leg was a bit shaking. And that lady on the customer, so I was doing my loop, and on the way back she was like, okay, what do we do now? I was like, oh, well, I'm just gonna stop the dogs, and we're gonna wait for Dave. He's gonna come on a skidoo, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, you have to stay calm as well. You can't just, yeah, that was super fun.
We're gonna head back out to the yard. I'm gonna do another patrol and make sure that the last place I seen him, and make sure he's still heading in the direction he needs to go. Well, the tip jar filled up a little bit, so they seemed pretty excited about having that experience. Meanwhile, I think it's a good year when I don't see a polar bear. I'm pretty happy that it turned out the way that it turned out.
In bear season, polar bears pace the shores waiting for the sea ice to form, and they head out on the ice to hunt seals. Choose from a range of tour operators to safely facilitate your bear encounter. These enormous tundra vehicles are an attraction unto themselves. They venture deep into the Churchill Wildlife Management Area, where they hold exclusive access permits. Guests often boast of seeing 20 to 30 bears in a day. Smaller operations led by local experts can take you to all the active hotspots where you can take that perfect photograph. I asked Caleb Ross of Nanook Operations about the challenges he faced this year.
Hey, thanks, Roy. It was a challenge this year. Had a couple of film crews still make their way up, and we took extra precautions this year for that. So I arranged for the crews to get tested in Winnipeg prior to arrival in Churchill, just to make sure that we were being extra cautious for the community here. And then when they did the new lockdown, where everything was stopped again, film crews who were already in production kind of got a pass to finish what they were doing, so that lucky allowed us to carry on. I mean, I've been on the ground with bears now for 13 years, 14 seasons, and it still excites me. Still love seeing it.
Right, let's go see them bears. It all starts with a lonesome strider in the distance. You tremble with excitement to see your first polar bear through a shaky zoom. Your guide points out another bear, a curious fellow sniffing around the Eskimo dog yard in the foreground of the Ithaca shipwreck. Wow, it all seems too good to be true. They don't call Churchill the polar bear capital of the world for nothing. The next day, the weather's dull, but the polar bears are magnificent. Your heart melts.
Now I'm strumming my guitar, and a bear plays the harmonica, sitting by a fire in the snow. staring at the skies, and the lights dance along with us, wondering if this night would never end. But the bear, he looks at me, and he puts down his harmonica, standing like a giant of the seas. I dare not stop my song, I'm scared but keep my strumming strong. He sits down a little closer to me.
I bumped into another local guide, Alex DeFries, and he gave us an insight into his season.
The last few days have been insane. The ice is still, well, it's not thick enough yet for them to go out. But it could all change pretty quick with the north wind. All that ice that's already out there could form right away. You know what, I was sweating a little bit at first because it seemed like we were going to have an early freeze up. But we've had some south winds for the last 24 hours that have kind of opened things up, and some of the bears have come back. Families are usually the last bears to head out onto the ice. So yeah, hopefully they'll stick around for a few more days.
Breaching icy waters, I turned to where our fire was, a misty trail of smoke rising high, 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 where I was strumming my guitar and a bear played the harmonica, sitting by fire in the snow. I was staring at the skies, and the lights danced along with us, hoping that this dream might come again.
We have a dedicated polar bear alert team in Churchill. They patrol the entire area and deter bears from the town's vicinity. Problem bears are sent to the polar bear holding facility, or polar bear jail. They're isolated and airlifted to a safer location. It's yet another unique experience you might only see in Churchill. Your guide will know when it's happening and get you front row viewing. On that note, if you're feeling like treating yourself, there are helicopter and plane operations flying you all along the Hudson Bay coast in search of bears and stunning landscapes. This is Churchill in perspective, a remote Arctic port town in the middle of an endless frozen tundra. You'll find something special in Churchill. Beluga whales and polar bears are just the beginning. I hope you get a chance to come up here and see what it's all about. We don't mind sharing. Until then, rest easy.